This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It's Wednesday. Welcome to it, my friends. It is the Steve Gruber Show on this Wednesday. Michigan's Governor Rick Snyder pushing for thousands. No, make that tens of thousands, I think, of Middle Eastern refugees to relocate here to Michigan. Snyder says it's the right thing to do and that Syrian refugees and others fleeing the war-torn region could help make Michigan more prosperous, create jobs, and even get Detroit back on its feet again. Mark me down as a skeptic. Let me qualify that again. In fact, I'll go further. Disregard that. I'm not just a skeptic. I'll go further, much further, and go on the record as opposing what I consider to be an ill-conceived notion. We have enough problems right now without importing more, and this appears at first blush to be in disregard of not only American national security, but our own national security right here in Michigan. And it's what the Obama administration is pushing, and that's reason enough for me to be skeptical about it. I mean, what is the governor's plan to make sure those that are extracted from the battlefields of the Middle East and airshipped and dropped in Michigan, that they are vetted properly and screened before they arrive? What is the governor's plan to make sure these new refugees become contributing members of the community and not a net drain on resources, like the Boston Bombers were before they attacked the Boston Marathon? This is not something to be taken lightly. These are serious concerns in a world where those who are part of the Islamic State, for example, are declaring a new caliphate and telling the world they will occupy the White House someday soon. I don't think we need that caliphate right here in Michigan. That's my take on that. Let's go to the hotline. The hotline, by the way, 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Steve on the line. Steve, welcome to the program. Steve, welcome to the program, my friend.
Good morning. Back about 10 days ago, you made the comment that Arlan Meekhof insists that there isn't going to be any rolling blackouts when all these power plants shut down. In the meantime, you have a vice president whose name I still don't know, from Consumers Energy, I almost said Consumers Power, that there will be rolling blackouts. And if Mr. Meekhof is so incredibly positive that we're not going to have rolling blackouts, is he going to tender his resignation? I'm sick and tired of being lied to. We don't need another Rick Jones telling us everything we want to hear, and then all of a sudden the thing goes south and you hear nothing but deafening silence. Or, for that matter, Rick Snyder and the lies that we received about fixing the roads and how this penny was going to help everything. I'm sick of it, man. I hope you ask him if he's going to resign if we have rolling blackouts.
The man's name, by the way, is David Mengebeyer. David Mengebeyer is the VP at Senior Vice President of Governmental and Public Affairs at Consumers Energy.
Okay.
And he is the one that said that we have rolling blackouts and electrical shortages. Hold on, Stevie. Hold on. I know you're wound up, but rolling blackouts and electricity shortages could come to pass as Consumers Energy shutters coal plants and a partially deregulated market leaves the utility skittish of new energy investment. That came in a report that was issued back in April of 2015. April of this year. The new EPA regulations aimed at reducing mercury and other toxic air emissions. More than 60 coal plants in the Midwest. 9 of them are here in Michigan. The bigger problem that you're not hearing probably is that 60 coal plants in the Midwest will be shut down completely between now and April of 2016. And how could you not have an energy problem if you shut down 60 plants? The ones here in Michigan represent 1.5 gigawatts of power. Multiply that several times over, because Michigan relies on coal more than other states. Michigan is more heavily dependent on coal-powered plants than most states, in fact. So we're going to shut down 9 here, 60 total across the Midwest. That's just in the Midwest. You know, the president said he would destroy the coal industry. Well, he kept his promise. Coal miners in Pennsylvania and West Virginia are now out of work. We are facing rolling blackouts in America in 2015. You're not going to address the American energy needs by shutting down these plants. And the fact of the matter is, I have never walked outside of my house in Michigan and concerned myself with taking a breath of fresh air. I have never concerned myself when I've been in Ohio or Wisconsin or Indiana or even Illinois, home of Barack Obama, worried about taking a breath of fresh air. Have you?
Australia has, who wrote the algorithms for global warming, is telling you how the numbers are skewed because of the way they're representing everything. You know, at what
That's right,
point
Dr.
does
Peters.
all of this come together and we're able to figure out if we're being lied to or there's really something legitimately going on here?
Well, we're not being lied to. They're going to close the plants. That part's true. Yeah, no, I'm listening. I mean, here's the truth of the matter is this. Global warming exists, Steve. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the Great Lakes. If not for global warming, we wouldn't be sitting here in Michigan because we'd be under an ice sheet. But the fact of the matter is...
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, neither do I.
I don't have a problem with what's going on. What I'm having a problem with is you have all of this legislative body stepping up to the plate, whether it be federal or state, and telling us what we need to have, and it's not working. The country is in a mess, and this is just one small segment. So once again, I ask you, I hope you ask Arlan Meekhof the question. If we run into rolling blackouts, is he willing to resign?
Well, I have good news for you, Steve. Arlan Meekhof is the next guest here on the program. He's coming up in just a couple of minutes, so hang tight and make sure you listen, and we'll try to get to those answers for you. Steve, thanks for checking in. The hotline number here is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. So the questions before Mr. Meekhof this morning, obviously, he's putting forth what he considers it's the last best option to fix the infrastructure here in the state when it comes to roads, bridges, and transportation issues. And then the question becomes, what about rolling blackouts? What about closing 9 coal-fired power plants in Michigan? How are we going to deal with the challenges that we have ahead of us right now? I mean, these are extremely important questions about the future of Michigan. Is sitting in the dark with a power bill that's $500 going to become the new normal here in Michigan? Some people say it is, and I'm saying it's possible because your electricity bills are going to go through the roof because the most expensive time of the year is summer. So if you do actually have a heat wave, your rates are going to go through the roof, and you may not have power at all for a while. We'll be right back with Arlan Meekhof right here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
It's 18 after the hour, and welcome to it, my friends. It's the Steve Gruber Show. The phone number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. And we'll get to your calls as soon as we can, but we want to get to Michigan Senate Majority Leader Arlan Meekhof because we only have a short bit of time today. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks, Steve.
And let's start with the roads, and then I do want to talk to you about power plants in Michigan and the concerns that people are the escalating concerns about power blackouts coming next year. But let's start with what you termed the last best chance for a deal, or the last best deal, or however you put it. How do you look at our situation with the roads today, and what is it going to take, and what is it going to mean to people going forward?
Well, I'm simply just saying the Senate passed over in July a bipartisan package of stuff to work on the roads, and we've been meeting with the quadrant and putting things together and making very, very good progress. And this was kind of the last thing that we had on the table. I think it's a pretty good deal. I mean, it's fair, it's reasonable, it's understandable, and I think people would like the House to put something up for a vote, and so I asked the House to put it up for a vote.
Are there guarantees on how, first of all, how much will we be paying in additional taxes, fees, and expenses to put this deal, if you will, on the road?
Certainly. Well, it's about $400 million, as is described, of redirected revenue out of the current budget. About $400 million more in registration fees, electric cars, heavy truck registration fees, and the gas tax would go up about 6.5%. And all of those things would sunset out in the future, so it isn't a tax that just goes on forever and ever. It will sunset, assuming we pay off all the bonds that we do to construct the roads. So average driver is going to pay about $150 to $200 more a year. So all your math whizzes out there, help me divide that by 50. 52 weeks. That's about $3-4 a week.
All right. Now, did you say 6.5 cents per gallon or 6.5% increase? What's our gas tax going to be?
Will be an additional 6.5 cents, and then indexed to inflation after that.
And it'll be a permanent tax then.
Well, and we will have a sunset in the future, so it will be repealed at some point, unless the legislature at that time determines that fuel is the right way to pay for roads, and I want that sunset to be there, so they have to have the conversation: is fuel the right way to fund our roads?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, you believe it is in the short term. I guess my question to you, Senator, with Arlan Meekhof, the majority leader of the Michigan Senate, Republican. I've never known a tax to expire, not easily anyway. On occasion it happens, but they taxes tend to die a long, slow, painful death, painful for all of us.
Yeah, well, being at Back to the Future Day, and we can't really go back 17 years and index gas to inflation like probably we should have, and then we wouldn't be having this discussion. I would have about $1 billion to invest in our roads. So it's painful at this point to do it. But again, we're want to assure people that we're doing it in the best way possible. As the people said to us, I only want to pay for roads, so this is all going to roads, and we're going to make sure it gets done. And I'm simply asking the House to put it in conference committee. The last thing that we talked about that had some modicum of agreement, let's vote on that.
All right, so there you have. Okay, so that's that part of the conversation. Now, in response to people who have been calling this program and the growing concerns of Michigan residents over not only the cost of electricity going forward, because you get drilled for extra money in the summer months. If people didn't know that, if you go over a certain amount in the summer, they add a penalty charge to you, if you will. You can call it what you want. I call it a penalty. And also, we're closing 9 coal-fired power plants in Michigan, 60 closing across the Midwest, meaning where are we going to get our power from? And the vice president of one of the vice presidents of Consumers Energy back in April said rolling blackouts will become the new normal in Michigan. Hard for me to believe that in 2015, 2016, Senator, that rolling blackouts will be normal for people in here, period. What do you make of it?
I don't know the background of which the vice president spoke, but I do know that the MISO group that looks at all the energy demands and networks throughout the Midwest has said there's enough energy there for at least 4 or 5 years, but we probably do need to build some new generation. But there shouldn't be rolling blackouts anytime soon. In fact, I hope never. But in response to that as well, we probably have 10 or 15 other entities that are not the big generators of electricity who could add on to their existing operations in an environmentally safe way and in a very cost-effective way and generate some more megawatts of power. And I think that's one of the things we should look at. And I also believe in the people of Michigan and entrepreneurs who are going to figure out ways to generate or store energy. I'll give you an example. You can't see me, obviously, but I'm home on my cell phone. I don't have the same cell phone that I had 20 years ago. And I think that people are going to find a way to generate energy and store energy and be better about energy going into the future. So I don't want to get locked into one technology either.
Well, that may be true, but we don't have 20 years to figure it out. I mean, we don't have 20 years to figure it out. The fact we're taking 1.5 gigawatts out of the grid right here at Michigan to begin with, and 60 plants across the Midwest. I mean, this is no small thing.
there's several nuclear plants that are coming online too, if I understand it correctly, that could contribute to the overall energy in the Midwest area. So we have plenty of opportunities, I think. We just have to make sure that we have a free enough market that people can risk that and go out and generate energy and be profitable.
All right, so you don't believe that we'll have rolling blackouts in Michigan? I mean, you don't believe that?
Oh, I agree with MISO that there's 4 or 5 years before we're going to have any sort of energy deficit, and we can build something in between there if we have to.
Plants take years to build, though, Senator, as you well know. It takes a long time to build a power plant. The one in Holland has been under construction for how long? That's a natural gas plant. How long is it going to take to build and finish that one?
Well, it'll actually probably be actual construction will probably be about 2.5 years. They had all the litigation in front of it that extended all the things out there. But gas plants can be built in a shorter period of time. And these other folks that generated energy, these other private entities can add on to their existing facilities at very low cost and quite quickly, actually.
All right, there it is. Michigan Senate Majority Leader Arlan Meekhof. Wish you could stay longer because I could have this conversation for about 2 hours. You're welcome to come back anytime, Senator. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
There you have it. The hotline number, 888-900-9966. We'll talk more about it straight ahead.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
All right, the hotline number here is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Here's the, I'm a little confused about the last conversation I had with Michigan Senate Majority Leader Arlan Meekhof. The reason being, he mentioned that there was a new nuclear power plant under construction in the Midwest that would, take care of any concerns we might have about power. There are no nuclear power plants under construction anywhere in the Midwest of the United States. There are 5 plants under construction, many of which, one might go online this year, Watts Bar in Tennessee. But after that, there's 2 plants being built in Georgia, 2 reactors in Georgia, one in 2019, one in 2020. Same true in Summer, South Carolina. One in 2019, one in 2020. Years away from completion. There is no, plan. And many of the other plants that are on the horizon to be built are in Florida, South Carolina. For construction completion dates projected to be 2027, 2028, 2024. Fermi, the Enrico Fermi plant, was going to add a 3rd reactor, but basically DTE says we're never going to build it. They've got their license in place. They're never going to build it, so rolling blackouts. I guess we'll find out what happens, but Senator Meekhof, I'm sorry, sir, but there is no nuclear power plant, unless I misunderstood, and I don't think I did. Jim on the line in Lansing. Jim, welcome to the program. Quickly, what are your comments?
Yeah, quick, Steve. First off, are you noticing a recurring theme with these yo-yos? And I mean that with all due respect and deference to their positions. No sense of exigency whatsoever. To sit there and talk so blithely about we'll build something in 4 or 5 years when that becomes necessary is ludicrous. I mean, look at the lawsuits that are imposed anytime any kind of energy facility is trying to be built. I mean, this guy is he's clueless. And the thing, and I guarantee you this.
I'll guarantee you this, Jim. If we're sitting in the dark with $500 power bills, the peasants are going to have pitchforks. Make no mistake. The people are going to be angry. And you're right. How can they sit there? Well, it'll just take 4 or 5 years to build it. It's Jim, I agree with you, and thank you for calling in. He's on the money on that one. It's 888-900-9966. Now, something else we want to touch on, where because it's the left that says, we've got to have all of these, green energy power plants. Do you know what it will take to power America with if we went down this road? 78 million rooftop solar systems, 49,000 solar plants, 156,000 offshore wind turbines. And that ain't going to move freight trains down the tracks in Montana, I guarantee it. And that's just one estimate of what it would take to power us with so-called green energy. We'll mine, rare elements all over the planet to create it. It's myopic. Our next guest, speaking of myopic, we're going to go to another liberal topic, and that is taking your guns away, because that won't go away either. Jennifer Burke here, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Politistick, joining us on the program. Jennifer, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me on this morning.
And the reason we have you here is that Hillary Clinton, the most transparent candidate in the history of the United States, has praised the Australian approach to guns and says it's worth looking at. And for anybody that doesn't know, Australia's gun policy was, well, they confiscated them all for the most part. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. That's what they did. And, but even though it was through confiscation and not, everyone just voluntarily turned in their guns, the left wants to use countries like, or places like Australia as a model for gun control. If you look at cities that have stringent gun control, even in gun regulations in this country, crime is through the roof. It's the most, despite what Obama said after the Umpqua Community College shooting, massive gun control and gun regulations does not control gun violence. Why? Because criminals don't care whether or not they're following the law, which is why they are criminals. And
the fact of the matter,
in Australia, it's illegal to have a gun. One or 2 days after Obama's attack on American gun owners, there was a shooting in Australia. Why? Because criminals don't care whether or not they're following the law.
Absolutely true. Now, as you look at what has worked in Australia and what has not worked, you look at violent crime in America, which has been on the decline for 40 years. And this dates back to the Cold War. You see, Russia painted America as the Wild West, as a violent place where, gun violence erupted in the streets. America isn't even in the top 70% now for violent countries in the world as far as murder rates and assaults and so forth. And if you took out gangs and drug crimes, America is one of the safest nations on earth, period, paragraph. And no matter how much you gin up the base and put a spotlight on the unfortunate incidents in places like Umpqua Community College, which is just a horrible incident, but no matter how much you try to, beat the drum for that, taking my guns away or my wife's guns away or my neighbor's guns away doesn't make America a safer place.
No, it makes Americans less safe, actually. I mean, the stories they don't want you to hear are the stories of people who actually made a difference in their life or the life of someone else because they had a gun. Like the young man in Las Vegas a few months ago who someone broke through his door. He did what his dad always told him to do. He got their gun, got his brother, and got a cell phone and got in the closet. And when he was discovered in the closet with the gun, and he had the gun ready to shoot, his father has taken him shooting before, the person ran out of the house. Now imagine what could have happened if that young man hadn't been armed and knew how to use a weapon. There are stories like that all over the country that you rarely hear about because it doesn't fit the left's narrative of confiscating guns.
That's exactly right. I mean, you don't hear. I mean, you hear about it once in a while. The case here in Michigan where the guy with a concealed pistol license shot a bank robber here very recently and defended the bank against this robber. The robber later arrested with a gunshot wound because he had been shot by a guy with a legal license. No, but here's the thing. There are no reportings on the mass shootings that were avoided because they don't make news. The only thing that makes the news is the sensational slaughter. That's what sells newspapers, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, in Oregon a couple of years ago, there was in another gun-free zone, someone attempted to do a mass shooting. What happened? There was a guy had a concealed carry license that had his gun. That stopped that shooting from happening. So, the facts just and the reality of life just is not on the
cartoon
left side.
Contest.
It doesn't stop them from repeating it.
Yeah. So, if people don't never sleeps, and the take away guns never leaves, and it's never going to leave, and so we have to be steadfast in defending ourselves. Jennifer, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I agree with you. We do have to be steadfast in defending ourselves and understanding exactly what is going on, because the left will try all kind of tricky things to disarm Americans. In California, they're trying that registration for ammunition. So if you want to protect the Second Amendment, you really have to be cognizant and aware of what is going on in this country, because they will try their best to keep their actions hidden.
Check out Jennifer Burke at Politistick.com. That's Politistick.com.
The Steve Gruber Show, American Values with Midwestern Common Sense. .45 after the hour on this Wednesday. Welcome to it, my friends. It's the Steve Gruber Show, and shifting gears altogether now to a place that we all need to pay attention. Governor Rick Snyder is forming a task force. In fact, he's already put it together to recommend changes in Michigan special education systems. Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley will be taking over his chair to continue working on this important set of reforms and updates, if you will. Michelle Fecteau here from the Michigan Board of Education to talk more about it. Michelle, welcome back to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Obviously, when we talk about education, and there's so many challenges today with different places, but nothing as challenging or as important as special ed here in Michigan, and the way we approach the kids that have, higher needs and special needs, and how we address those to make sure that we do our level best, I guess, Michelle, to help these young people become contributing members of society and make them part of our community. And I think that's a good place to start. So tell me about what kind of reforms we're looking at.
Well, I joined the lieutenant governor for the bulk of the stops on the listening tour. So, and I'm also the parent of several kids with disabilities, and he also has a daughter who has autism. So, so our experiences in listening to other people, there's there's a number of things. One, it's very difficult if you disagree with the school district. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the services that the experts tell you your kids need, or that you see that the kids need. And I think there's the whole way to resolve those disputes. You basically have to get a lawyer, and it's very if you have a child with a disability, you're already financially disadvantaged right there, because a lot of things are not covered by insurance, and it's very expensive. So we're looking at a better dispute resolution process, and figuring a way to everybody focus on the kids instead of dealing with lawyers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, let's keep the teachers in the classroom, not the attorneys.
Yeah. So, and there's also issues that I think are important, like the fact that a lot of the special ed services, there's these requirements, and I think they're important because, our society, how do we value ourselves if we don't take care of our most vulnerable citizens? I think it's an important thing for us to do. And also, if you don't put the money up front, you're going to end up paying in the long run through Social Security disability and all these other things. Whereas if we invest in the kids early on, perhaps they can be contributing members of society, and it'll pay off in the end. But I think that the investment in the monies that are available for education and for special ed in particular, it's just not there. It's very costly. And the schools are...
well, the problem here, Michelle, and I've got to step up and make a comment here. Here's the concern that people have. And you're saying there's not enough money for special education. The fact of the matter is America pays twice as much as the next closest country when it comes to spending on per-pupil education. So people listening to this program are going, wait a second. We spend a ton of money on education. If it's not going to the right place, why not? And they want accountability. And I think accountability matters in a day and age when we're in debt everywhere. We're in debt at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. We need accountability in how the money is spent, because the money is there, most would say.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree that we spend a good amount of money on education.
More than anybody.
Think it's important, and the task force should look at where is that money going and how can it be better spent. Is it being spent on paying for attorneys on dispute resolutions? Is it being spent on whatever, testing, like over-testing our kids. What is it? I think I'm all for efficiencies, but I also know as a mother and as someone who has been talking to people across the state that what often leads to disagreements and contentions is that schools are, they're right at the they don't have the money to provide for the speech therapist and the occupational, whatever it is that the kid needs to be able to be academically successful. It's just very financially challenging for a lot of our public schools right now. And, a lot of other countries do not educate their special ed kids as we do. And I think that's...
But the fact of the matter is we spend a ton of money...
That we care about all of our kids.
And I agree with that, Michelle, and I understand that. But people in this country pay twice as much. We pay, thousands of dollars more per pupil on average than any country in the world. We spend more money, and yet the answer is always more money, which is where people say stop.
No.
And they want accountability. You understand that.
Yeah. I'm saying we have to look at where we're spending our money and how we're doing it. But I also know, like, the school districts, I live in Detroit, so the school district is mandated to provide services for around special education, but in the federal government is supposed to reimburse, so there's a federal requirement, and they reimburse less than 20% of the cost, even though they mandate that the schools provide this. So the schools want to provide it, but they don't have the resources to do it. Well, especially in districts where there's all sorts of issues with declining enrollment and all the things that come with that. So those kids in those districts, those parents are really struggling to get the services the kids need, and the schools are struggling to get them the services that they need too.
We're on the line with Michelle Fecteau.
Invest up front. It might cost up front, but in the long run, it'll mean less people on Social Security disability, and that will be important in the long run.
Michelle, we understand that, but unfortunately, see, the problem is that we've been fed that line for a variety of things. Now, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Don't get me wrong, and we're with Michelle Fecteau from the Michigan Board of Education. But people get told that all the time. In the long run, we got to pay now, but in the long run, we're going to get X, Y, and Z. And too many times, the taxpayers we don't get doodly squat in return. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's why the task force has been formed. Michelle, we're out of time. I appreciate your time,
and
I appreciate you joining us. They have Michelle Fecteau from the Michigan Board of Education. What are your thoughts? Well, you can find out more by dialing me at 888-900-9966. It's Wednesday. What is it? It's the Steve Gruber Show. .55 after the hour and headed to the hotline now. If you'd like to join us real quickly, 888-900-9966. Peg is on the line in Lansing today checking in. Peg, welcome to the program.
Hi, Steve. Thanks. I'm calling in based on your last segment about the Special Education Task Force, and wanted to let your listeners know that there are resources out there that can help families and school districts resolve disputes that they may have about delivery of special education services. I work for an organization called Resolution Services Center, and we are connected with an organization as well called Michigan Special Education Mediation Program, and we provide mediators to help families and school districts resolve disputes over delivery of services, and there's no cost to the families and the school districts. It's totally free. It's funded through the Michigan Department of Education, and it's a great way for families and schools to resolve issues that they may have, keep the focus on the child and what the needs of the child are, and how best to deliver services to the child. And so it's a great process.
And how does somebody find that? Where do they look for that? Yeah, where does somebody find that, Peg?
I'm sorry?
Is there a website, someplace they can go? I mean, I don't mind putting it out there.
There's a website, the Michigan Special Education Mediation Program. They can go there. That's a statewide program, and those services are delivered through a number of dispute resolution services around the state. in Lansing, in the Lansing area, the Mid-Michigan area, that would be the group that I'm program manager for, Resolution Services Center. But the main website to go to would be the Michigan Special Education Mediation Program. If you have questions, you can connect with that organization either on their website or through their phone link, their internet link. If you have questions locally, you can certainly call my office. I'm happy to give you the number if you'd like me to do that.
Well, we're out of time, but I appreciate it. We've hit the wall here, Peg, and I appreciate you calling in because we want those resources, but we'll have to live with the website for today. Thank you so much for checking in, Peg.
Okay. Thank you.
There you have it. All right, it's the Steve Gruber Show. The hotline, for all your comments is 888-900-9966. Your calls will have to wait till tomorrow, though, folks. We're out of time. Have a great Wednesday.